Hello and welcome to a very special episode here on Subtle Radio, because today we're celebrating International Women's Day. With me today I have the very amazing and inspiring Pembe Tosun, who is going to be talking to us today and sharing some of her experience regarding reclaiming her identity, advocating for social change, and talking about the strong female influences in her life. Hi Lola, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
I'm so excited for today's episode. I think we've got a lot of interesting topics to cover and can't wait for you to share your story. Now, to start off, Pembe, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing at the moment.
So I live in Hackney and I'm working at Hackney Council now, so I started a few months ago. It's very new. It's sort of like a apprenticeship. I'm doing a management qualification, and yeah, it's been really interesting so far. At the minute I'm working in like the social policy team, working on like refugee and migrant policy, which is something that's like I've always wanted to do. So it's very cool that I've somehow landed this job for myself. I was doing something worlds apart before. I was in social care, so yeah, that's what I'm doing at the minute.
Yeah, you've been working in this industry for quite a while now. Just before we get into the meaty stuff, what do you love most about living in Hackney?
Oh my God, everything's just on my doorstep. I was living in Edmonton before, that's where I grew up, and there is nothing there. There's nothing to do. So yeah, coming out of my flat and straight away there's stuff to do and stuff to see, and there's places to go that are actually exciting and interesting. Definitely the best thing.
It's a buzzing area.
Yes.
We're recording in Hackney today, so absolutely love it. So you're talking about your role in Hackney. How did you get into this sort of role in the first place, and what inspired you to work in local government?
So I said before, I was working in social care. I was just managing like a very small supported living house, and it was really nice. Everything there was lovely, but I realised I couldn't really do much there. Like I could make that place as lovely as possible, but it wasn't going to affect anyone else's lives. And I think that's always something that's really mattered to me, is making sure that things are like socially just and equal and fair. I grew up in a household that was like working class, 3 women, single mum. It's just like within the core of everything that I've known from growing up. So it kind of was the logical next step for something that would actually make more of a change.
And do you have any particular kind of role models, or obviously you mentioned you were in a strong female household. What kind of strong female influences or role models have you had that you think have inspired you to go down this route?
My mum and my sister for sure, like the biggest influences ever. Like it was just us 3 in the household. My sister is the strongest person I've ever met in my life. She's stubborn, but in the best possible ways. She actually passed away 2 years ago on International Women's Day, so I feel like this is the most perfect time to talk about strong women, because she is the strongest. And also the fact that she died on International Women's Day is just so her, like it's ridiculous. But yeah, she is the biggest influence on like everything I do, everything I have done. I'm pretty sure she'd love that I'm working for Hackney Council now. Like I know she would, and I wouldn't have got the job without her either. So.
100%. And obviously, you know, it is such a like serious, life-changing thing that has happened, and it's been nearly 2 years now, right?
Yeah.
So what have you kind of done how have you dealt with it in the last 2 years? Because it's been tough. It's been the pandemic, and obviously I'm a very close friend of yours, and I think you've been absolutely amazing in the last 2 years. I don't know how you've done it, but if you feel free to kind of share a little bit of wisdom for maybe people who are going through the same thing, or maybe facing other struggles in their life, how have you dealt with the situation?
I would say that the pandemic probably came at the best possible time in my life, just because it was literally March, and then everything came to a standstill in my personal life, and then the whole world was on standstill as well. So it kind of like matched up to exactly how I was feeling. Like nothing really made sense. Everything was confusing. I think for me, being able to separate myself from everyone for the first couple of months was very important. I'm not someone that likes to like talk about my emotions and be like, not soppy, because I mean grief is not soppy, that's something that makes sense, but for me I'm not someone that wants to sit and talk about things all the time. So I just got very, very busy for like the first year and a half. I've always liked being busy. I don't stop moving, probably a bit too much because I end up so tired, but if that's what works for me, that's what works for me. And then I started therapy last summer. My mum's going to be gassed that I'm talking about therapy so openly, because she had to fight for me to go. And now I love it. I think it's the best thing. I think everyone should go. Even if something like monumental hasn't happened, I think it's just the best thing.
Yeah, so would you say that's been like the biggest help for you in the last year?
Yeah, for sure. I think just having someone completely separate to anything, who's not involved in my life and doesn't know any of the stuff personally that's happened to me. I can just say it from my perspective, my point of view, go in, offload. Still means I don't have to go home and talk about my feelings to my mum, because as much as she'd love me to do that, that is not me. So yeah, therapy for me is like the best thing I could have possibly done.
Love that. And regarding kind of, we wanted to also talk about reclaiming your identity, and we kind of spoke before about how Talia was your sister was a big influence in your life for that.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about, what have you done to reclaim your identity and why now?
Yeah, so Lola is the name that I've used. That's my middle name. I've used that name for like over a decade now. That's like what you grew up knowing me as, is what all my school friends have called me forever since I met them. And to be honest, it was just the idea of going into school and a teacher saying my name on the register and just completely mispronouncing it. So my actual name is Pembe, which means pink in Turkish. I think it's a nice name. I don't really know why I ever like stopped using it, but that embarrassment of someone coming in and saying it wrong was literally like the worst thing I could think of. And it was up until like very recently. Like I couldn't imagine wanting people to call me that again. I think I realised that Tao was one of the only people that consistently refused to call me Lola, really. Like she carried on calling me Pems and Pembe. Like I'm named after my grandma, who was like a proper big matriarch. She was great. She was a strong woman. It's a cool thing to be named after someone who was so like influential in her family. And then I think the fact that Tao carried on calling me that definitely gave me a bit of a push to go back to calling myself that. So yeah, when I started my new job, it just felt like the logical thing to do was to go back to it. I also felt a bit like hypocritical, I think, calling myself Lola and anglicising my name, but then trying to encourage other people to be really in touch with their cultures, because I can't really like go out and preach about diversity and celebrating yourself if I'm not doing it myself. So yeah, I think I'd like to think anyway that maybe it would be helpful for someone to see someone with my very Muslim name in like working for Hackney Council, where there is so many, I mean, Turkish people are like a huge community within Hackney anyway, so I think it's useful.
And you mentioned something that Tal said to you that kind of stuck with you towards the end, and what can you tell us a bit about what she said?
Yeah, so I was trying to be like all existential in the hospital and be like, oh my God, Tal, what am I supposed to do now? Like, what am I going to do? So this was like towards the end when it was clear that she was going to pass away. And I meant it so existentially. Like I wanted her to be like, oh, it's going to be okay. Like, you'll be fine. You and mum have each other. But she just turned to me and it was like the most Tal thing. She was like, maybe you should learn a language. And I was like, that's not what I meant.
But that's just so on brand for Talia.
Yeah.
And you've done that. You're taking up Turkish lessons, you said?
Yeah, so I got my first lesson next week. And then, yeah, I feel like that will bring me a bit more in touch with my Turkish roots. It's something I've never really like celebrated. My mum never taught us Turkish when we were little because, to be honest, I don't completely understand. I've tried to get it out of her. She regrets it now. But she said that when she was younger, she only spoke Turkish. And there was a point in like nursery or reception or whatever it was where she couldn't speak to her classmates. And that just affected her so much. Because I can imagine that's a horrible feeling to not be able to speak to people around you.
It's quite isolating.
Yeah. But I've argued with her about it a fair few times.
And fair.
And now it's time. Yeah.
As someone who also comes from like a Greek Cypriot background, I kind of learnt the language growing up. I think it's such a beautiful thing to be in touch with your culture. And I think you're going to kind of, again, reclaim this new narrative and identity for yourself in your life. So I'm very excited for you to, we'll be talking to you. I want you to teach me a bit of Turkish.
God.
After the lessons, we'll get that going.
See, now I've said it on this, it puts the pressure on to actually stick with
it. Exactly. And aside from that, so also, what about music? Let's move on to that. You said you wanted to listen to reclaim your identity. Have you kind of listened to any Turkish music?
Yeah, I think when I was little, so my stepdad was from Cyprus, and came over to England and was very, very traditionally Turkish, but also in some ways very untraditionally Turkish. But he was very into his music and his culture, and it's something that I did grow up with, like listening to the music and listening to like the proper traditional, like quite funny music, to be honest. Like listen to bit belly dancing when I was younger. I loved it. But so when him and my mum broke up, I think that sort of stopped. And then recently, it was actually just by chance, I went to a festival, Wide Awake, last summer, and there happened to be like a Turkish band on the lineup. So I just started listening to them, and I was like, they've really like modernized.
Is this Habibi Funk?
No, they're called Altın Gun.
Okay.
They're really, really good. Like, recommend. They're so good. It's like they're from Amsterdam and have taken old school Turkish music but put it to like a more like psychedelic funk tune, and it's really fun. It's really good. And I started listening to that. Have started like learning to cook more Turkish food. Like my boyfriend got me a Turkish Cypriot cookbook for Christmas. Like he is feeding into it. It's like, you're going to be Turkish whether you like it or not. So I think like listening to the music while I cook, I'm like, it's such a simple thing, but it's really helped.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And obviously it is International Women's Day, so you have a very eclectic and I'd say top tier music taste.
Thank you.
And we were playing a few kind of female icons on the show today. Who are some of your favourite female artists of all time, and who do you think is hot right now?
Of all time, like you can't have a conversation without talking about Amy Winehouse. Like it's such a classic, but like you just can't go wrong. She's amazing.
Our Southgate queen.
Oh, love that. Yeah, she's from where we grew up, which is amazing. Went to our school for a bit.
Yes.
That is the biggest claim to fame I have.
Honestly, anyone Amy Winehouse went to my school. Yeah, and now I've said it on radio, so you can all hear it.
Went to her exhibition in the Design Museum last weekend. Amazing.
How great.
So good. Mm-hmm. Who else? Florence and the Machine, I just think is amazing.
Yeah.
They're just top tier people that I will always listen to. Even though if my music taste like changes like as I get older, those are people I can always go back to and I know I will always go back to. Hot right now, and also someone I've loved for years. Like I'm getting, the like Spotify Unwrapped.
Oh yeah, is it the top artist?
My top artist every year for the last like 3 years has been Little Sims, and it just keeps getting like nicher and nicher. So I think this year I was in her top 0.05% of listeners.
Loyal over here.
I just love her. I think she's amazing. She's so cool, and she's just she's doing
she did well at the
She's doing
Brits
so well.
She won Best New Artist, Best Newcomer, and another category. She won, and she brought her mum on stage.
Oh my god,
Did you see that?
That's like my favourite thing an artist can do is bring their mum on stage.
Her mum
it's
was
like it's so cute.
Going around, she was absolutely loving it. Her claim to fame, I love Little Sims. I think she's amazing. We're playing some of her tunes today. I think we've got women to kick off the show. Anyone else?
Who else? Jay Gray at the moment. She's quite like up and coming. She's just so good. I saw her live a couple of years ago. She's just someone that's really like in touch with her fans. Like I literally messaged her on Instagram a couple of years ago to be like, oh, your gig's sold out. Like, are you going anywhere else? And she was like, don't worry, you're on the guest list. I'll get you in. I was like, oh my God, this is another claim to fame. I love this.
Iconic,
but she's just very like, you can tell how much she loves making music for her fans and for people that appreciate it. And her music's just beautiful. She's got such a stunning voice. Very like neo soul, very chilled. Yeah, beautiful. I think she's like one to watch. Yeah. She's going to be great.
Love that. Yeah, I'd agree with all of those top artists, to be honest. And we've got a lot of beautiful female neo soul, I'd say, is the main category of today's show. We've got a bit of Leanne Havas. Do you listen to her?
I actually haven't properly.
Big up, recommend. Silky smooth voice, beautiful. We've got some classics like Lauryn Hill. We have, again, Little Sims, Joy Crooks, who is, again, up and coming, an artist that I love, and many, many more. So stay tuned for that. And I think, Pembe, that concludes our show quite nicely. Thank you so much for your honesty and sharing your experiences with us today here on Subtle Radio. I think a lot of people can take away a lot from what you've had to say.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you for having me on. It's really exciting being in a studio. I've never done this before.
It's been really fun. It's been a great day. And again, happy International Women's Day, and we're thinking of you, Tal. So yeah, thanks and stay tuned, guys.
Thank you.